My granddad came over with his parents. I believe he was 2 to 3 years old. It was probably 1881 or 1882. Like a lot of the immigrants, refugees of the time, they went where the work was. And Circleville, that's where they settled. They were hidesmen. They'd go around and collect hides from farmers. Eventually my granddad down there was in a grocery business, and then he moved up here and opened the Barrel House. That was in 1917.
It was at 76 West Broad Street. And on one side was a bar, and the other side was the barrels. And at that time you'd bring your bottles in, and they would, I assume, clean them and recork them. And then Prohibition came, and that pretty much ended the bar business.
They moved over to State Street. This was at State and Wall Alley, where the Rife Center is right now. And the restaurant was called the Java Lunchroom.
You could get a regular dinner, pork dressing, roast beef, brown gravy, baked ham and baked beans, potatoes, bread and butter, coffee, tea, milk, or a beer for 25 cents. When Prohibition was over, the story is that Grandma, she was first in line at the Department of Liquor Control to get her liquor license back. We've always been told that her liquor license was a single-digit number on it.
My dad was born in 1918. Because his parents were in the restaurant business and they opened up very early and closed very late, most of his family involvement centered around the restaurant. So he spent most of his childhood playing downtown. There wasn't a whole lot of friends that he had. There weren't a lot of kids down there. Actually, the son of the fellow that ran the Neal House was one of his buddies. So he was kind of taken in by all the technology that he saw around him. 35 millimeter photography, what we called candid photography, came into play, and it was basically where you could take pictures a lot easier than you can in the old days, where you had to have the plates put in the camera and all this studio kind of thing. So he made a kind of a start by taking pictures for the Macchio, which was the OSU yearbook. And he took pictures of the fraternity parties and this kind of thing. Later on, when he graduated OSU in Arts and Sciences, a lot of the organizations would suddenly realize that they wanted publicity shots, and Dad was kind of a natural, that he'd already had some interaction in that kind of a situation, so he started taking publicity shots for many different kinds of organizations. Anything from product photography to promotions for theatrical works.
Being part of the Jewish community, he was their go-to guy. So I not even try to count the weddings, the bar mitzvahs, the pictures of community meetings, the bowling leagues. They always were bringing in somebody famous to do a speaker. And this was one of the pictures that I didn't even know he had taken, but that's Mrs. Roosevelt.
Being in downtown Columbus, he got involved with just every part of society.
It was not unusual for Jim Rhodes to call the house on a Saturday or Sunday. And he was the only one that called him Toppy rather than Toppy. So we always knew who was on the phone. He was auditor of the state at the time. And we went up to his house. He said, "Herb, tomorrow I'm going to announce I'm running for governor." And my father said to him, "What is the theme of the campaign going to be?" And he looked at my dad and he says, "Prophet is not a dirty word in Ohio." And my father looked down and said, "Is that your briefcase in the corner?" And he said, "Yes." He says, "Pick it up and follow me outside." And we went outside in the middle of the street, and he told Jim Rhodes to walk about 20 feet away from him, turn around, and come at him like he meant business. And that was the picture. Again, another Sunday morning, a phone call, "Meet me downtown." And wasn't sure where we were going, but Dad followed him in his car and the police cars. And they went into Mount Olivet Church, I believe, on East Main Street. And when they came out, Dad shook his head and he says, "You're not going to believe who we just took a picture of." Rhodes found out that Martin Luther King was in town. And there's a picture of James Rhodes and Martin Luther King.
Dad was the staff photographer that wasn't. And a lot of the news media, they had limited photography staffs. So anytime there was some event, the people at the event were saying, well, who's going to show up and who isn't? We better call Herb. A little later on, this was in the early 50s, Dad carried a little, something that looked like a cell phone, a little beeper. And the beep went off and Dad would go to a telephone and then he would talk to the operator and they'd say, Herb, you're needed over here. So he'd literally go from one place to the other. A few years later, he put two-way radios, like police radios, in our cars.
Back in the early 50s, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis were a big, big deal. When they were in town, they came by airplane, and the sheriff at the time decided to arrest them.
Of course, that was a promotion. It wasn't
Yeah.
really arresting
and
them.
so they handcuffed him, and I think they took him downtown and booked him into the Neal House. But that was the kind of crazy stuff they could do back then.
Well, Dad liked to innovate a lot, and regardless of what situation he found himself in, people would stop by and say, hey, I need a picture of this, I need a picture of that. So as I understand it, when Wendy Thomas came in, they needed a picture. Sit down, Wendy, and they just ran through a bunch of just candid shots, and there was good smiles, bad smiles. They were just looking for a quick, good little picture that they can build a logo from.
The story is that Dad found some pipe cleaners to put in her pigtails to hold the pigtails where they needed to be. And this is the original photograph. When we closed the business in 2005, and I know there's at least 350,000 negatives, and they're stored in the order they were taken. So if we wanted to know what Dad was doing 50 years ago today, within a couple of days, we could go back into that collection and show you that he may have been taking pictures of paint cans in the morning and celebrities in the afternoon and a car accident somewhere in between.
We would walk down High Street, and as we were walking down the High Street was, hi Herb, hi Herb. Dad was welcomed and accepted in all different kinds of religious organizations. He was trusted. His ethics were unbelievably unselfish. And if there was one thing that I can take away from that experience is I learned how to treat people.